round 5, and the dream is still alive for at least one of our players here as they try to get into top cut. We are showing you a down pair, up pair essentially, so like an X1 versus an X2, because we are having a top 8 cut, so there is a chance that if the person who is X2 manages to win, that they could sneak into top cut. And I would just like to point out as a reminder, this is technically our last CP event of the season before NAIC, which is going to be the last one for the season for everybody, for overall. So there is some very important points on the line for some people, but also want to thank from the bottom of my heart everyone who has come out to play and who has come out to watch, because we can always have Pokemon, but we wouldn't have the scene without you all.
Yeah, you, the viewers at home, and especially the people competing in this tournament, we wouldn't be able to do any of these tournaments without you. But as we said, we're going to round 5. We do have a little bit of a weird matchup because we got 3-1 and a 2-2 so far in this matchup. It's likely there will be a shakeup if there is that upset happening, but as we're going to see here, we have both our players coming up on the stream. First up is Abhyu Vatsavai on the screen with the Tinglu, Torkoal, Bronzong, Farigiraf, Iron Hands, and Klefki, and Robert Matthews on the other side with the Iron Bundle, Arcanine, Iron Hands, Tinglu, Farigiraf, and Fluttermane, and both players have already locked in their teams.
Yeah, I will say that the other big reason I wanted to choose this team is because the Klefki, I know we've seen Alberto Lara's Klefki a lot. The big reason I like this one is this Klefki has Magic Room, and I have not seen it since the last time Xerneas was usable in a format, and Magic Room does shut off all of the items in play for a couple of turns, so it is definitely one of those moves to look out for. So we are going to have a Fluttermane and Iron Hands here for Robert versus the Klefki and the Farigiraf.
Yeah, it's just very ironic that we're finally seeing Magic Room in play. You know, the Magic Room only ever popularized in 2019 was because of Magic Room being a good way to shut down the power herb on Xerneas back then. It has some implications right now because of the high usage of choice items right now in this game. You know, Prankster, you know, you at least get rid of those choice items, maybe underpower, maybe make things back to normal, or even get rid of some pesky items like Assault Vests, like on Iron Hands, for example. But let's see here. Abhyu going to go ahead and go for the light screen. Doesn't want to take as much damage from that Fluttermane, seeing it as his primary threat.
Oh, and Fluttermane actually going for a taunt into that Klefki afterwards, but Prankster able to at least make sure that one of those moves was able to go off as Wild Charge from that Iron Hands goes into that Farigiraf, but Farigiraf is like, hey, I can totally handle this, leaving it free to set up that Trick Room. So now the speed of this game has been slowed down, and we are going to have a little bit of a shakeup in those speed tiers.
Yeah, and we do see from Abhyu's team sheet here, he's not running Psychic, he's on Psyshock, so unfortunately, even if it does hit the super pressure damage onto the Iron Hands, it's likely going to be taking it a lot better than it would with the Psychic because of its high physical defense stat.
Yeah, so it is still at least a move that you can like land down onto that Iron Hands, right? So you're kind of looking at like you have no choice but to damage deal here. We do see Abhyu going for that switch with that Klefki. Tinglu actually coming out onto the field in place instead, so that taunt really just sort of hurting it overall. And the special attack gonna get dropped here, more importantly for that Fluttermane, but Fluttermane actually saying, all right, well, I'm gonna leave this party, is gonna get switched out as well. An Arcanine gonna take to the field here. That Arcanine going to have access to that Intimidate, and is gonna really matter, I think, on that Tinglu here.
Yeah, a little bit of an untimely switch there. Yeah, super untimely switch there. It's a Iron Hand's gonna go ahead and do 50% HP to that Tinglu, get all his health back for its trouble. And I think did see a side shot go into the Iron Hands? It does. How much damage is this doing on the physical defense? Not much.
It's still at least a decent amount. So Abhyu is able to at least get some damage into it, but his Tinglu is gonna have to take a lot more for those troubles, unfortunately, and not really a position that you want your Tinglu to be in, especially with that Arcanine just being able to deal so much damage off in general. The Iron Hands also just a lot of potential damage output as well.
Yeah, I did see Abhyu consider going for that Terra Normal on the Farigiraf. Maybe could have mattered. Oh my god, that's a lot of damage on the Stomping Tantrum. Gonna go ahead and activate that berry on that Arcanine. That Citrus Berry gonna go ahead and recover 25% of his HP back. Iron Hands goes for another Drain Punch, and it will not survive.
Yeah, so this Iron Hands is going to be able to take back all that damage that it took from the Psyshock earlier. So it's almost like that HP bar didn't even move, but in return, that Tinglu is going to have to get knocked out on this turn. Was able to at least get a lot of damage into Arcanine. A Hyper Voice here from that Farigiraf, not enough to pick up either knockout, as the Farigiraf actually managed to survive a little bit with just that 20 HP left. Arcanine does take that recoil damage here and is going to knock itself out because of that recoil damage. But not really the way that you would have wanted the Arcanine to go down. I think you would have preferred that your Farigiraf was able to knock it out before that could have happened.
I think there's only 2 turns left of Trick Room that Robert has to deal with. As we do see Abhyu bring in his Torkoal, going to activate the Drought, also indirectly activating the photosynthesis on the Flutter Mane. If this is speed, this is bad for Robert. Oh no, that Flutter Mane is going to be super fast in this Trick Room, not the way you want it to be.
Yeah, and this Torkoal is also technically at full HP as of right now for that eruption, right? So you do have like that to deal with as well. But no redirection means that if you can at least try, like if you can at least burn like the couple Trick Room turns left, then you have to worry less about this Torkoal. But Torkoal is actually in a fantastic spot to be able to just like take knockouts if it wants to. It is at max HP, right? So you do have to like, yeah, I was gonna say, if you've got a Terrasilize coming out for that Torkoal with like the fire as well, then you're in a world of hurt in the sun with the fire Terra typing and with like the fact that you're at full health for that eruption. Oof. Yeah, this is just a lot of damage with that Torkoal.
Oh, Terrasalization also coming out from Robert. I think this might be Flutter Mane to Fairy because if we look at the T sheets, oh wait, never mind, I read that wrong. That's a fire type coming out from this Iron Hands.
Yeah, so at least Iron Hands is like, okay, I can at least try to mitigate some of the damage that I'm going to take from this stacks on stacks on stacks for this Torkoal, but Graf going to go for a Protect this turn. And Julia's like, yeah, I don't like all the damage that's being outputted here. And there's that full, so Choice Specs in the sun with Terrasilize at full health eruption. And oof. Yeah, this Iron Hands actually takes out like a champ here, and it will activate the Focus Sash on that Flutter Mane, so it was able to hang on for one more turn. But the Drain Punch from the Iron Hands going into that Protect is really important here for Abhyu, because at least he doesn't have to worry about that as much. But now that Torkoal is going to have to take some damage from that Shadow Ball, and there is that, because it is locked into Choice Specs, Eruption is going to have to worry about that. And now if you're Robert and you have, actually there's no Protect on the Iron Hands because the Iron Hands is a Soul Vest, but if the Flutter Mane is at least able to protect for one turn, you could at least keep it alive.
Yeah, see what this Iron Hands does here, because it is outspeeding that for Regraph in the Trick Room, which actually has been very, very bad for Abhyu as we see another eruption comes out. This should not be able to knock out the Iron Hands now that it's taking some HP damage. Yeah. Pretty close! What do the Iron Hands go for here? Does go for the Drain Punch onto the Regraph, takes that knockout. Trick Room will not be an option unless there's a Bronze Lung in the back, but even so, this is the end of Trick Room. Flutter Mane's in a fantastic position.
Yeah, and honestly, like that Torkoal's a kind of rough spot now because it was, not able to take any sort of knockout. And Klefki's like the only Pokemon that was like left on the field. Sure, the light screen was still up, but it didn't really matter in face of something like that Iron Hands. And I think that Klefki really has to make a choice when it's first out on the field, because you do have to worry about which one do you want to set up before you could possibly get taunted, or before you have to switch out that Klefki.
Oh yeah, you could go for the Magic Room to get rid of the Choice Specs.
I wonder if the Torkoal is gonna stay in for another turn, but Magic Room again shuts off items, so Choice Specs no longer locks the eruption in here, but Shadow Ball from the Flutter Mane is gonna go down into that Torkoal. It's gonna do some decent damage onto here, but Drain Punch following it up is gonna pick up the knockout. So Magic Room coming in a little bit too late here, but I think more importantly, not being able to pick up a knockout during the Trick Room turns is probably sort of what sealed this game for Robert.
Yeah, because the biggest issue here was not getting that Torkoal in time. You had to switch out your Klefki because it got taunted immediately by this Flutter Mane, even though you got the light screen off. And wait, he's actually going to find out Dazzling Gleam's damage right now, which is interesting. I mean, first of all, we're going to... yeah, I think Abhyu's just staying in this game just to find out damage rolls.
Yeah, I mean, you can always, there might be a world where, like, it's nice to at least see a little bit, too, like, what your opponent was, like, gonna bring, right? Because we saw, the Flutter Mane, the Iron Hands, this Klefki's just hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, it's doing its best, but it has all the keys, just not the key to this victory for the battle, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, the wrong keys there. And we do see Iron Bundle as another Pokemon for Robert. It does have that... No, never mind. I always assumed a booster energy on it, but apparently it never activated. Oh, right, the Magic Room's in play.
Yeah. So I think you're here at this point too. Like, you can at least like force your opponent to show you the Pokemon that they bring, because that does help inform your game too, right? And I think when you're looking at the game that happened here, you're really sort of looking at the fact that you have to sort of worry about the fact that Arcanine and that Iron Hands put in a lot of work for Robert. And if you can't stop those two, then you're kind of in trouble. Sure, the eruption, like the fully powered eruption with the specs and the Sun Torkoal was there too as well. But at the end of the day, if you're not being able to capitalize on all of those trick group things, you're still in just a really rough spot. Because then Robert, all he has to do is just burn those trick room teams.
Yeah, and another thing is that even like The Team Blue, I mean, first of all, we're seeing that this Team Blue was choice banned, so that did a lot of damage to Arcanine when it got in, but when it got in, it had to take a Drain Punch immediately and just did not get any time other than that one stopping tantrum to do as much work as it should have.
Yeah, and I think part of that is that like you kind of know that the Clefty has to switch out because it really only has a Dazzling Gleam as a move, right? So whatever you catch in on the switch in, a lot of it is gonna get hurt by Drain Punch. Like, so really, you're feeling at it. The Iron Hands on Robertson is the Pokemon that you really want to get rid of from the get-go.
And I'm looking at the lead coming in from Abhyu's perspective. Like, I'm not sure this is going to be final, but Tinglu Bronzong lead, it's going to be interesting because it's, first of all, it's choice band, so if it goes for the Earthquake with the Bronzong's Levitate, it's going to be a load of damage to Iron Hands because that Translation of Fire may protect it from Will-O-Wisp, but it won't protect it from weakness.
Yeah, and Abhyu is like, I think if you're looking at it too, like he really just wants to set up Trick Room all the time. That is the mode that this team just desperately wants all of the time. And so Iron Hands and Tinglu is actually going to be the lead of choice here for Robert. So we're going to have double Tinglu on the field with Bronzong as well. So everyone's special attack is going to get lowered twice as much, but the problem here is that it doesn't even really matter for this Bronzong because it's not really there to attack.
And now that Iron Hands has to kind of make a choice here. Do you fake out the Bronzong, stop the Trick Room, or do you try to threaten the Tinglu for the knockout? As we do see Translation come out, I assume this is from Abhyu, and it's going to be a Tinglu into the ground type.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be a lot of damage. So it is going to be interesting to see which one it'll head down into because it is going to get faked out this turn by that Iron Hands, but that does technically... Ooh, the Ruination connects here onto that Tinglu, which puts it down under a half HP, and that's going to be really rough. So Bronzong was able to set up the Trick Room, and if he can capitalize on that Trick Room this turn, even with that his own Tinglu being at half health, he might be in a pretty good spot.
Something to note, Robert's Tinglu was faster, so the Earthquake's likely going to come up before Tinglu gets any chance to respond. It just comes down to how slow is his Iron Hands.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Abhyu's team, right, like the entirety of it runs slow because he's running Trick Room. I mean, there's a small chance that they could be speed tying, right, and it's going in Robert's favor in that moment. But Robert is actually choosing to now go ahead and switch out the Iron Hands here. It's going to bring in the Fluttermane. So Fluttermane in this Trick Room setup is not going to be super happy about this, but Bronzong going for the Heavy Slam does very, very little damage to the Tinglu as well. And so Tinglu is going to be able to go first, boosted by by the ground terrestrialization. Does not obviously doesn't pick up the knockout on the Fluttermane because of that that focus sash, but now that throat chop comes into play here, it does some okay damage into the Tinglu in return, but now Robert's Tinglu is going to get back some HP thanks to those leftovers.
The leftovers are going to be important for Tinglu's recovery system with that HP, and actually, that Earthquake did a lot less than I was thinking it would, and yeah, Bronzong is just heavy slamming another heavy target, and Tinglu is just doing very minimal damage. As soon as another Earthquake come out, this will pick up the knockout on the Fluttermane, but it needs a crit in order to get the knockout onto the Tinglu. See how much damage this does? Not enough.
Not quite enough for that knockout there, but Fluttermane was able to come in and get knocked out. Didn't really get to do anything because of the Trick Room turns. Throat Chop still not able to pick up a knockout as well, but we're slowly burning down the Trick Room turns, and I'm wondering now here why that Bronzong isn't really switching out, because it's not really offering much to the table after all of those Trick Room turns had expired, or sorry, after the Trick Room went up. But Iron Hands comes back onto the field, and more importantly, it brings with it that fake out pressure one more time.
I think fake out actually does pick up the knockout of the Tinglu from this range, and yeah, as he said, I'm surprised Bronzong's staying in play for so long. Like, maybe he is just trying to chip away at this Tinglu and maybe make it easier for Abhyu's Tinglu to get the knockout, but at the same time, you could just go for something like that Safeguard to be safe, but
Abhyu's Tinglu actually switched out for an Iron Hand, so we have Iron Hands versus Iron Hands here, and Robert's Iron Hands fakes out Abhyu's Iron Hands as a Heavy Slam again from Bronzong into the Tinglu, so continually just trying to do a little bit of chip damage, I'm guessing here, but now this Iron Hands on Abhyu's side is going to have to take that throat chop as well, as Tinglu slowly gets back some of that HP. It's like those Heavy Slams aren't even really doing anything in the end.
They aren't, but at least they're mitigating the recovery from Tinglu's leftovers, and I think also that switch out for Tinglu is pretty smart, because if you get another Trick Room off, which I think is very likely, then you don't have to worry about the Iron Hands as much as you really should.
Yeah, so this is the last turn of Trick Room right now, and Bronzong is going to protect on this turn because it wants to try to make sure it can set up another turn of Trick Room. But Ting from Robert's side also protecting because it knows it's within knockout range from Abhu's own Iron Hands. That Drain Punch we're going to see go into that protect spot. And now Robert's Iron Hands is able to go for an attack. It's also going for a Drain Punch, but goes into the Iron Hands instead. Is going to take back whatever it is going to drain that HP, but it was already at full, so it doesn't get any sort of recovery. But the Tinglu does finally get out of the red thanks to those leftovers.
Trick Room's gone now, so interesting situation right now for Robert. I actually do wonder how much damage Throat Chop's doing to Bronzong, because if it's a significant amount, I could see a Terrestrialization come out from Abhu's oh wait, no, Tinglu already terrestrialized. So we're gonna see Robert go for his terrestrialization. Is Tinglu into the poison type?
Yeah, so really nice defensive sort of, yeah, and a lot of it because you then worry less about the drain punches that you're like taking, right? So the poison terrestrialize here really good for Robert as the drain punch from his Iron Hands goes into Abhu's Iron Hands, and now we're just seeing drain punch versus drain punch for days. But this does kind of leave the Bronzong free to set up another Trick Room. And we, that Stomping Tantrum actually might just sort of stop the Iron Hands in the track. Yeah, even, you know, it's just a little bit rough because I think at no point were you able to sort of protect with your own Iron Hands because of the fact that you're wearing Assault Vest. But Bronzong, for you to set up the Trick Room, you did lose the Iron Hands, which is one of your best ways of dealing with the Tinglu on Robert's side. However, your own Tinglu is still technically in the game right now.
And I think that's going to be the switcher for Abhyu, unless this Torkoal really thinks he can get in for free. Nope, Tinglu's going to come back in. This is probably, I think he wanted to get the Iron Hands knocked out because, again, if you don't threaten the Throat Chop under the Bronzong, you just let it get out of another Trick Room, you KO the Iron Hands, and now Tinglu is in Trick Room again and threatening knockouts on both of Robert's Pokemon.
Yeah, and now here, right, you have like the sort of like nice situation where Bronzong doesn't have to worry about getting hit by its own Earthquake. The Tinglu, though, on Robert's side is going to get switched out for an Iron Bundle instead. So Iron Bundle is going to have to take that Earthquake from this Tinglu on Abhu's side. The Quark Drive is finally going to be able to activate because the last turn the Magic Room was up, but speed going to go up, not super helpful in this Trick Room scenario, as Iron Slam barely does any damage into that Iron Hands, but Tinglu able to fire off an Earthquake. Not going to hit Bronzong again thanks to that Levitate ability. Is going to get boosted as well by that ground terrestrialization and is gonna be able to pick up a knockout on the Iron Hands. But this bundle, though, you know, able to hold on.
A little emotion coming out from Robert's camera, and he's like,
yeah, and now we see the Tinglu coming back in, is definitely in range for those Earthquakes.
Yeah, this might be going to a game 3, and I wonder the Heavy Slam damage actually did matter because I understand it's Terra Ground Choice Band Earthquake from this Tinglu, so it's probably doing a lot of damage, but maybe that damage from the Heavy Slam might have played a bit pivotal role in case it tried to survive.
Sometimes chip damage is chip damage, right? Yeah, and I think really you can only tell that if you're looking at Robert's side if you're looking at the HP wise, how much that Heavy Slam really does. I think for me, the wildest thing here is that Bronzong stayed in for so long. Like, to me, I think after you set up Trick Room, the Bronzong is kind of just, pardon the pun here on this one, is a little bit of dead weight in that one, right? Like, sure, the Heavy Slams, you can at least get some damage down, but against the Tinglu on Robert's side, the leftovers just kind of negates that damage completely.
Yeah, and then a little surprising for Robert. Like, I'm a little surprised he didn't go for Throat Chop on that turn onto the Bronzong because that was still doing super effective damage and Terrestrialization's gone, so you don't have to worry about it transforming itself from that Psychic type into that Fire type that it has. And the thing becomes now, I'm looking at, oh wait, that's not an Imprison for Rikurau. I was about to comment about it maybe a prison, but then I look at the teach sheet again. Oh wait, it's not Imprison. It's just Trick Room. But maybe you could go for a Trick Room mind game.
I really like the Bronzong here still, though. I think the Bronzong offers a little bit more than the Frigoraph in terms of whoever's setting up Trick Room. Frigoraph is better overall in terms of like damage output, clearly, but I think the Bronzong here is nice because then you're forcing Robert to really have to target it down, which means that you have sort of free reign with Bronzong's partner. So I do like that right now Abhyu is looking sort of at like the Tinglu and Bronzong lead again.
And the best part, you get to go Terrestrialization turn 1, now you're not even threatened by the Drain Punch from Iron Hands, and that's pretty much another security blanket because then you're only weak to an Iron Bundle, which isn't doing much thanks to that Vessel of Ruin.
Yeah, especially if you manage to get up Trick Room, right? We know that the Iron Bundle is like geared towards speed and speed and speed. So you, as soon as you set up Trick Room, you don't really have to worry about that as much. But I think if you're Robert, you really just want to make sure you focus down on stopping that Trick Room. That is your game plan. If you stop Trick Room, you have a higher chance of winning the game.
Maybe we see an Arcanine somewhere. No, we see Iron Hands Iron Bundle instead. So this does put a threat to the Tinglu, but Bronzong I think might be safe from making another Trick Room unless this is a prediction. I'm gonna predict the turn right now on Robert's side. I'm gonna predict fake out the Bronzong and then let me look at Desire Bundle real quick. Yeah, freeze dry into the Tinglu maybe because I wouldn't risk Hydro Pump right now.
Hydro Pump, I hate clicking, and I will say it again. Every time I click Hydro Pump, I wish it was Scald, which is why I don't run Hydro Pump. That's why I'm a bad player. We are going to see a Terrestrialization immediately, though. Again, just the capability of having, like, the ground terrestrialization with the Earthquake, with the Choice Band is just a lot of damage output that if you can't like knock out this Tinglu in within 2 or 3 turns, you're in a lot of trouble.
Oh, there's the fake out.
Yeah, so fake out here into that Bronzong because you want to stop Trick Room, right?
No!
But Hydro Pump, my heart stops every time I click Hydro Pump. So if you were able to hit that, that would have probably been a game changer because there's just so much super effective damage into there.
And that's why I said you go for freeze dry. You never trust Hydro Pump to win you in any situation. And look how much damage that Choice Band Tinglu does with that Earthquake. And Trick Room going up, I think this is... Oh wait, never mind. I forgot it flinched. So... yeah, this is still bad for Robert.
Your best bet is you have to click the Hydro Pump because if you don't, then you auto lose no matter what, right? So you should be clicking, like there's nothing wrong with clicking the Hydro Pump. That's why it's there. And a lot of the times people will still run moves that aren't 100% accurate because that's the best option for you. People like me who I'm just like, I don't run Hydro Pump is because it's just like, I don't like running those like that and I would rather lose that way than like, you know, win. But there's nothing wrong with clicking the Hydro Pump.
Chilling Water is an option.
Yeah, I'm just saying, right? But like the Tinglu, right? So doesn't want to have to worry about possibly getting hit by that Hydro Pump if it were to connect this turn. The Arcanine switching in on that did get Intimidate down, so Iron Hands at least is able to avoid that. We are going to see a Terrestrialization now on the second turn. It's going to be really interesting here because that Arcanine is going to be able to get the Grass Terrestrialization. So in case there was sort of that Earthquake option again from Abhyu, then you have less damage to worry about in the long run. Another miss from that Hydro Pump. And a Flare Blitz here from that Arcanine is going to go into that Bronzong. It is not heat proof, but it still is able to live. It's almost like it's got a built-in heat proof. And so now Trick Room is going to be able to Z-set up here for Abhyu. And it's a little rough, right? Because you want to be able to, like, at some point those Hydro Pumps should hit, but that below 90 accuracy is always really rough.
Yeah, it's just the worst thing in the world to miss 2 Hydro Pumps, and you know, maybe we are seeing some Pokemon Mystery Dungeon references with this Bronzong being not necessarily heat-proof, but taking enough heat to survive that Flare Blitz.
Yeah, and so now we have the Tinglu coming into play here. That Iron Bundle was like, you know, I gotta get my eyes go checked, and Heavy Slam from the Bronzong into that Tinglu, not gonna do much. And Arcanine takes that Drain Punch pretty well right here, is able to recover some of that HP that it just lost thanks to that Citrus Berry. But, you know, still kind of a rough spot here for Robert, as Will-O-Wisp is actually able to land. So one of these moves, Will-O-Wisp is the one I expect to miss more often than not, in all honesty, but is able to at least mitigate any sort of damage that will be coming out from this Iron Hands in the future.
That's a reminder of the accuracy changes that went for this game. Remember when Will was a 75 accuracy?
I don't want to talk about that.
Oh my goodness, thank goodness it's 85 accuracy, but it's still not the same feeling.
It's a miss is a miss, and it's just always like heartbreaking to see that screen just sort of like pause. It was always worse than like old Pokemon Stadium games because they would show you the animation. But still here, if you're looking at like Robert's side, right, he really is sort of in a rough position where he has to burn out these Trick Room teams, and I recently he's focusing down on the Bronzong, and at least he's dealing with some of the potential of the Iron Hands, because now the Iron Hands isn't doing as much damage, but your Arcanine is still in kind of a rough spot. So you do have to kind of be careful about that.
Bronzong protecting, doesn't want to get knocked out by that Throat Chop anytime soon, or maybe that Extreme Speed. Arcanine protecting as well, doesn't want to get knocked out by the Drain Punch, even though it is burned. Let's see what's going to happen here. Stopping tension into the Iron Hands.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it at the end of the day, right, damage is still damage. So you want to make sure that your Arcanine is in as little damage position as possible. And so the Volt Switch not going to connect here, which means that Abhyu does not get that switch out that he would have gotten with the Volt Switch had it connected. As instead, going to have to stay in and get down to underneath half health thanks to that burn.
This should be the last sort of Trick Room if I counted my turns correctly with this Bronzong. And prime opportunity for this Arcanine to maybe go for the Extreme Speed before it takes a Volt Switch or a Drain Punch its way. This Tinglu right now for Robert, I think it has to carry.
Yeah, I mean the Tinglu is also kind of in a spot where it should be. It is able to like have a lot of attacks, right? It doesn't have access to Earthquake. It instead has Stopping Temperature, Ruination. We saw Throat Chop and Protect. So all 4 moves are out on the table and also on the team sheet. But your Tinglu is only really able to do single target damage, and I think right now the Bronzong is the most important Pokemon to attack into here.
Oh, there's actually a Stream Speed into the Iron Hands, not to the Bronzong. So it's gonna get a Safeguard off. So no more. So now the Mystical Veil is gonna protect Abhyu's team temporarily from status conditions as the Stopping Tantrum takes the knockout of the Iron Hands, and now this Arcanine does not have an option to burn anything anymore.
Yeah, I appreciate that, like, that Safeguard actually went up on this turn because that Tinglu really doesn't want to get burned at all. And I mean, obviously Torkoal can't get burned, but between the Tinglu and the Torkoal, if you can set up one more Trick Room after this, then you should be in a good spot. However, that Bronzong is at very low health, and so the Tinglu is in a fantastic position here because you really have to focus down into it to make sure that it doesn't knock you out right now.
Yeah, and I don't think an Earthquake would knock out the Arcanine. I mean, yeah, your Choice Bandit, but that is a resistant hit thanks to that Grass Terrestrialization. Or maybe I'm just underestimating Tinglu's damage output, but either way, this Bronzong is in trouble and is forced to protect.
Yeah, so Bronzong is not really finding a spot to be able to set up Trick Room in the moment here, as Arcanine actually also going for a Protect on this turn. Wants to try to make sure, I guess, that it doesn't take any Earthquake damage here. I think maybe Earthquake and Heavy Slam would have been enough, and Robert was probably a little bit afraid of that one. But now we are going to see that the Tinglu is only going to be doing Earthquake damage into the Tinglu on Robert's side.
See how much damage it does with this Choice Band. It's not intimidated. It's not doing
a lot,
too much.
honestly. But Ruination here from Robert's Tinglu is going to be able to get this other Tinglu down to under half health. So honestly, not a terrible spot for Robert to be in because he's slowly getting back all of that HP.
I mean, it's also doing a job for Robert's own Iron Bundle as the Trick Room goes away. His Arcanine can easily take out this Tinglu, this Bronzong, or even, yeah, it's going to go before it's actually into the Tinglu for Abhyu. Does get that no burn because of the Safeguard. Let's see, the Tinglu actually respects the Bronzong, and it finally respects the Bronzong, so no more Trick Room goes up. Iron Bundle sitting pretty right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're still going to lose a lot. You're going to lose the Arcanine here because of that Earthquake, but you don't have to worry about it as much for the Tinglu on Robert's side, right? Like, you were able to eat that up pretty well. And so now that you've denied Trick Room from coming out, yeah, the critical hit on the Arcanine, I think, probably doesn't matter there because it did take some recoil damage as well from the Flare Blitz, but at least your Tinglu was able to survive, right? So now Iron Bundle is at least able to be in the back and start dealing some damage. It's just a matter of your Hydro Pumps hitting is the big issue.
I don't think Hydro Pumps to play here because Torkoal comes in with the Sun, so I think Freeze Dry is more the safer option. You know, maybe the misses we made on the way was some Freeze Dries to play.
I wonder, actually, here too, you could technically go for, so you do have access to Stopping Tantrum if you're Robert too, right? So Torkoal is kind of like your big, if you can get rid of like, if you can get rid of that here, then you're fine. Freeze Dry into the Tinglu is enough to pick up the knockout here. So now it's just a matter of, can you survive the Heat Wave here? And I don't know if you can. Oh, this is actually kind of close.
Really, we're going to come down to misses again. Stopping Tantrum does connect into Abhyu's own Torkoal. Let's see how much damage he's doing. Not doing over half. Do we double connect? We double connect.
Yeah, and so Tinglu was able to survive, but I don't think that's going to be enough still because you aren't able to, you aren't able to do as much damage. I mean, you might be in a spot where you can just click,
I can't believe this game came down to 2 Hydro Pump misses, and now it comes down to whether or not we get a crit or a miss.
I mean, you could technically protect. Oh, if you can get a critical here, you might be able to get the knockout here. Yeah,
no, does it miss? Does it miss? It does not.
So I'm also wondering if at any point, like you click protect there, get some more HP recovery, click for a double protect and hope for the best, right? At that point, because you're dealing with single target Heat Wave in the Sun for like that Torkoal, so you're kind of like in a rough spot. I mean, I will give props to Robert. Like you clicking Hydro Pump there, like, is probably always the play just because you want that damage from the get-go, right? Like Hydro Pump is there for a reason as a water type move, and so at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to how lucky are you when it comes to accuracy, and sometimes some of us aren't so lucky to be able to connect many times, sometimes we do. I mean, there's a reason why some people tally how many Will-O-Wisps they hit during a tournament and why some people tally the Hydro Pumps that they hit during a tournament, because at the end of the day, our mentality for it is just as detrimental to it as clicking the move itself.
I guess that's what the punishment for Scald has become now. It suddenly became Volcanian's signature move, and now Hydro Pump's just the go-to special move, and
I mean, you have no choice. It's just really unfortunate, right? Because Scald is no longer in the game, and so like it's just, like I said, everyone has different preferences, and if it was me, I miss Scald every like. There's a support group out there for people like me who miss Scald, and if you are part of that support group, please let me know so I can join it.
yeah, otherwise you gotta sell something to the Volcanian stands.
I mean, yeah. So, you know, like. We'll see how top 8 like kind of shakes out, because that means that Robert is now 2 and Abhyu is technically X2 as well. Still, he remains that, which means he could technically sneak in. We're gonna see, because it is the last round of Swiss, which means we'll be going to top cut in a little bit after this. But stay on the edge of your seats while we do, as well as we wait to see who makes it to top cut. So we'll see you all in a while.